Hello, citizens of the world. Today, let's talk about education. Everyone knows education is an important part of our life. But are we actually having proper education in our time? To explore this, we have to understand what education originally is for. It's to equip the people with basic skills of modern days. Unfortunately, the model is more around industrial era. So instead of learning the ability to survive, we learn the ability to obey. This happens because of needs after a war. Specifically after World War II, there are lack of manpower in certain industries. Many in those generations are groomed to serve based on needs rather than necessity. Hence, our school focused mostly on filling up the labor sector and the professional sector. Along the way down the road, education had never changed much, and soon it had been apparent that education is aiming towards earning more money because they thought money equals to survivability. The problem is, money is manipulated beyond its means, just as my previous video had mentioned. And thus, education focusing on earning money will never get you enough to survive. Schools in our time doesn't teach you to survive, they teach you how to memorize things. I remember based on my own experience, my teacher used to ask me to memorize a formula rather than understanding what does the formula do back in my additional maths days. That is also the reason why I consistently drop out or get poor results from all my studies. It is because education is formulated to serve, not to think. And in current times, our school is desperately required to reform. Look at the world around us. So many things that goes wrong. Some of us know what the problem is, but not enough people to discuss to solve the problem. Specifically, the pandemic that hit us tests our ability to adapt. But none of our citizens in our time learn anything about pandemic, let alone how to survive it. The people in power are no experts themselves, and thus they are not equipped with the ability to lead in such times. The ones who should be leading are the professionals who had deep understandings in pathogens and virus. Unfortunately, most governments do not listen to their own advisors. At least not entirely. There are many reasons to that. Most of them have to balance the population's happiness through religious or economic means. That created leniency to allow the virus to stay in dormant rather than being eradicated. Experts have no option but to compromise, and this is why the virus survived. So what does this have to do with education, you say? I remember back in my college days, I was given a task to study about the plague of the past. One of them that reminds me the most out of this pandemic is the Spanish flu and the Black Death. In school's history books, you would have never heard of such events. They were academically left out, as the system thinks they bear no significant knowledge for modern days. Instead, history are focused more towards nation building. In general, gaining independence through war, which is the most recent ones. Many exams are designed to question how much a student remembers, rather than the importance of the content itself. And thus, every generation, through primary and secondary school, we generate students who memorize. In some country, it has been to a point where even tuition teachers are able to predict what is the next questions of your exam, simply by collecting a few years' worth of data from the basic school exams designed by the government, specifically education sector, and parents plays a part into it as well, as many of them ask you to study well to secure a good future. But that specific good future has to be only in the field, which is a very generic term in certain countries. A doctor, lawyer, engineer, and an accountant. Any other job other than those selections are bound to disappoint your parents, especially if you have good results. Neglecting the potential of future generations to fulfill a specific position based on passion and interest, which is why the world is getting so many mismatched positions. The passionate struggles to reach their goals, while the rich are buying their way, but still fell short to reach their goals as well. The world at current times need to rethink and reform education in preparation of potential new technology that would replace memorization one day. Imagine in the short future, we are able to store memory chips on our brain. That makes memorizing knowledge irrelevant. What education needs right now is critical thinking, as if we do not progress fast enough, we will face imminent disaster in the future, and we will be totally unprepared for it. We need to reconnect ourselves to the basics of our own original nature, which is learning to survive. One great importance that education in modern days is missing is agriculture. How many students out there would have known how to farm, how to plant, and how to herd? These are real things that would bring food to the table, and yet our society had never learned, at least a huge majority of them, because the education deemed them as hard labors, and no one tend to invest into agricultural research, at least not as much as other sectors, which is why in one hand we are producing food to a population that use money to trade with them, but is not well educated enough to not waste the food, while on the other hand, we have another group of population who do not have food resources at all. The examples goes well with biological advancement as well. We did not invest enough in education to get more students curious in the science field. In job, we are too focused to look at people's qualification, but not really through testing their technical skills. It's relying on the piece of paper instead, a paper that defines your class, your academic excellence from remembering your studies, but not your critical thinking abilities. We as humans are flexible creatures. We are built to adapt, to learn new things in different fields. Unfortunately, we limit ourselves and put ourselves in an invisible barrier that restricts the potential for us to improve faster. Education itself is a huge topic. In general, my opinion is we are running on the wrong direction. We lose focus on what education is supposed to bring. And piece by piece, I would like to tackle more on specific issues on my future videos. Remember, survivability over illusional hopes on what the future would bring us. If we do not change, the environment will change for us, and it's doing it now. As always, stay imaginative and creative. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.